What exactly are freebies? In simple terms, it refers to a public welfare measure, any good or service that is offered free of cost by the government to its citizens. But our existing legal or policy framework does not provide a precise definition for the term. In the current context, it is often used as a political term by the centre to express disapproval of certain state level schemes. Therefore, it seems the meaning changes depending on whose perspective you hear. Free color TVs, grinders, food grains, laptops, cycles, gold, washing machines, cows, sheep, cash transfers to farmers, health insurance, and fertilizer subsidies. Indian voters have been beneficiaries of all this and more. But which of these are vote catching freebies and which are legitimate welfare measures? Making that distinction is a near impossible exercise. Let us take a famous example from Tamil Nadu, home to the two big Dravidian parties notable for their freebies, the DMK and the AIADMK. In 1982, when the then Chief Minister M.G. Ramachandran or MGR expanded the midday meal scheme for school children that was pioneered by K. Kamaraj in the late 1950s, he faced opposition from all quarters. The scheme drastically improved enrollment, attendance, and absenteeism. About a decade later in 1995, it was rolled out nationwide by the centre. Similarly, today the centre's PM Kisan scheme is modelled on the lines of Telangana's Raitu Bandhu scheme. These are just two of the many examples where state-level welfare schemes, once derided as freebies, served as a template for the central government to emulate. Given the ambiguity, 15th Finance Commission Chairman N.K. Singh, in a recent column, said there was a need to distinguish freebies from merit goods, expenditure on which brings economic benefits, such as the public distribution system, employment guarantee schemes, and states' support for education and health. On the other hand, a June RBI paper said that the provision of free electricity, free water, free public transportation, waiver of pending utility bills, and farm loan waivers are often regarded as freebies, which potentially undermine credit culture, distort prices through cross-subsidization. This erodes incentives for private investment and disincentivizes work at the current wage rate, leading to a drop in labor force participation. But this exercise is also fraught with risk, because in the long run, the social and economic benefits of certain freebies can far outweigh the fiscal costs they impose, even if they seem burdensome in the short term. States see it as an investment in human capital. This makes labeling expenditure as merit or demerit at the time of rollout difficult.
Even the midday meal scheme was dismissed as a freebie. When M.G. Ramachandran, the then Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, he's a mass politician, right? He was opposed by literally everyone, starting from the World Bank all the way to his own bureaucrats. But he persisted. He fought with even the then Planning Commission Deputy Chairperson, Dr. Manmohan Singh, who said, "What are you wasting this money on?" And MGR basically walked out of a meeting and asked a question. My point is, there is no way to decide what is a freebie, quote unquote, and what is not. It's just a pejorative term that's used to dismiss what I think is part of a very legitimate political process. To say that people are incapable of making their own choices and politicians are being corrupt or if they respond to those choices. The political process is all about deciding how allocation of resources should take place through the state. So this whole debate about freebies is nonsensical and meaningless. I don't think the court should have gotten into it at all. Different states are in very different positions, and it is very difficult to make a general fiscal prudence argument on this part.
If the Supreme Court is not the right institution to regulate freebies, can the Parliament legislate on it?
Absolutely not. Parliament should not. It's not its business. There is a list 2, which the state is free to make laws without being restrained by Parliament. A state should be free to make such laws on that, are constitutionally free to make laws on such topics. Likewise on list 3. So unless Parliament wants to amend the constitution and remove states from the federal structure entirely, I don't think they should have that.
Alok Prasanna says income tax deductions or exemptions and corporate tax reductions could be classified as freebies, but they are also conscious political decisions. Does something stop being a freebie because it has the approval of the centre? Experts broadly agree that states should be free to decide on freebies if it has the money. The problem arises when states dole out freebies, merit or non-merit, beyond their fiscal capabilities. Consider the financially weak state of Punjab. It is among the most indebted states and its own tax revenue has been declining over time. Punjab spends over 13% of its revenue expenditure on subsidies, one of the highest. Yet, the ruling Aam Aadmi Party recently fulfilled its poll promise of providing free electricity to every household up to 300 units. In the backdrop of poor fiscal health of some states, is there a way to set guardrails in place to ensure that freebies don't become excessive?
There are many governments where they are getting into a situation where their policies are leading to larger public debt, and that is going to be creating a long-term debt sustainability issues. This is where we start feeling the absence of the planning commission. Right now, we don't have any institution like fiscal council, interstate fiscal council, which can really regulate the deteriorating quality of expenditure at the state level. If some state is not able to really generate more resources, I think the finance commission will actually help by transferring more resources. Once the resources are transferred, how they can spend is something, it is with the state government. That is exactly where the politics come into that. One variable which is very important, and unfortunately that variable has not been really brought to the discussion table, is the public debt to GDP ratio. In fact, if you look at one of our study that we have done for the 14th Finance Commission, we said that FRBM has to be renamed as Debt Ceiling and Budget Management Act, and we also suggested that every government, both center and states, need to bring a debt paper every 6 months and submit to the parliament or the assembly.
The debate on freebies also needs to be looked at from the perspective of income of states. As the centre imposed more cesses, the share of tax revenue that the centre gives them has dropped. The end of centre's GST compensation payout has further reduced the headroom available with states for social sector expenditure. As such, freebies should continue to remain a conversation between the states, political parties and the voters, with prudent measures in place to check the largesse in case of fiscally stressed states.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.
यार
मत पूछ यार,
फिर से स्टॉक्स में फंस गया।
तो स्टॉक्स के साथ बॉन्ड्स, इंश्योरेंस, गोल्ड में बैलेंस कर।
इसमें बहुत तामझाम है।
तुझे 5 पैसा नहीं पता?
अब तो सबको पता है। 5 पैसा है ऑल इन वन अकाउंट। डाउनलोड 5 पैसा नाउ।
अब तो सबको पता है। Investing made easy and rewarding with 5 Paisa. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.